Got Tyler Bailey back again for his second time on the pod. Tyler, thanks for coming on to the podcast. Thanks for doing this again. We're both in different spots than we were last time. But I'm excited to just learn a little bit more about what's kind of been happening with you over the last year. Some things that you've noticed or picked up on, or in ways that you've made have grown over the last year, and how you can kind of share that with these folks and kind of update us on your thinking. So with that being said, what's new?
Absolutely, man. Thanks again for letting me come on board on your podcast once again. Always love chatting with you. So, what's new? Besides, being an instructor, like a little bit on my personal life, I won't get too in depth on it. But I mean, I went through a little period that I wanted to stop drinking and get a little healthier. So I took I think I went up to, wanted to start at 40 days. And so I made it there and kept on going. I added another 40. And once I passed 80, I decided to go past 100. So I went all the way to about 108 days
Wow.
and lost 30 pounds, which I didn't know that I could lose. And
Mm-hmm.
I put in about 3 to 4 days a week in the gym consistently in those days and onward. Um, I'm a lot healthier, I
Okay.
can definitely tell that. And I feel good and sharp mind without obviously having a lot of drinks on the weekend. But yeah,
That
feeling good,
helps.
man. It does
Good.
help. It really does.
Yeah,
Now,
I
as
think
far as go ahead,
Tom Holland did something similar.
Tom
He had
Hollins
mentioned
did.
that, yeah, where he just wanted to stop drinking, and 30 days went by, and he felt so good, he decided to do another 30 days, and I think that kind of spiraled into, half a year or more, kind of similar to what you were mentioning, where it just kind of felt good, so you kept going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, key word here is, on my end is evolving. So, on a personal life, I feel like that's a huge step. Professionally, in the realm of instruction, it's an ongoing process, right? I've been going at of teaching for full time for th- like 3 years now. So I'm definitely getting a lot better, and I'm proud of myself for that. And there's definitely a long way to go. I personally know that, but that's what I'm excited about for this year is to continue that growth and to see my growth and also my students' growth as well. But
Yeah.
again, keyword evolving. I don't think that ever in my life I'll get to the point where I know everything. I think I can always learn something. So yeah, I'm just getting better for this 2026 year, my man.
Good. Now, with the weight loss, are you noticing any changes in your swing? Should folks that you're working with be scared to make big body compensation and changes? Does it compensate in your swing? Do you see differences for you personally?
Um, let's see. As far as losing weight, I maybe mobility. Now I don't think like there's obviously people that are kind of like skinny fat or something like that are ultra flexible or something. But I would say in the gym, what's helped me the most is my balance, like my
Okay.
foundation that sticks me into the ground during the whole swing. I work, I work out. Let's say if it's a 4 days a week workout, it's gonna be legs. It's gonna be like second day, like I'll do uh, back and buys, and then third would be like chest tries, and then I'll hit legs again. And so
Mhm.
during that process, like I feel like I have so much more balance and connectivity in the golf swing,
Yeah,
if
wonderful.
that
Now,
makes sense.
it does. Are you structuring your exercise and your workouts for your overall health and personal goals, or are you structuring workouts for like golf specific fitness? Is there one priority over the other, more like longevity? Are you doing anything that's trying to be golf specific?
Not golf specific, man.
Yeah.
It's not.
And
It's
what I,
just getting in and making movements, strengthening um, all parts of your body. Not to the extent of like injuring yourself or being so bulky where you can't move. I
Mhm.
understand my position as a golfer and how much flexibility and mobility that acquires. So
Yep.
I know not to overdo it, right? And I think the biggest key point here is just getting in there and doing something
Mhm.
and staying healthy. As far as a
100%.
golfer, you know, you don't have to be this huge person to hit the long ball. I mean,
That's right.
I can hit the ball just as far as anybody else, and I'm not a huge guy, but I use every muscle in my bones to put the put the speed in the club.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the most important thing that people don't understand that. Well, here's two ways that I look at it. One is folks that are trying to be healthier. The most important thing, first of all, or even a better golfer, what's better than going in and doing golf specific workouts is just lifting and exercising consistently. So if you're going to do it for
Yeah,
the next 5 years, you're going to get better and you're going to get stronger. You have more longevity over, even if it's a golf specific program. But if you're only going to do it for 3 months and you get sick of it, or you don't like doing it, you're not seeing what the results from it, and you stop doing it, then you're not getting as much benefit as you would if you just are consistent in the gym, right? And exercising in
yeah,
your health kind of journey. Now, that being said, some folks having a golf specific twist to it can really help. And that's when I kind of say or think of the term like let golf be the catalyst, is how I like to put it. Is a lot of folks are so invested into golf, literally, and it's so much of their time and attention and love is golf that they want to get better and perform better. Well, let golf be the catalyst. Let golf be the reason why you age better and are healthier. Let golf be the
yeah,
reason why maybe you stop, maybe you decide to quit drinking, right? Or maybe let golf be the reason why you lose a lot of weight, right? Because you decide to get into the gym to perform better at golf and to improve on your mobility, stability, motor control, and strength because of golf, right? And so if golf can be the catalyst for you, well, you just improved your life dramatically because of that, right? It's the same thing for folks that are coming in that have been dealing with hip pain, low back pain, but they're just not motivated enough to quite really get on top of it or address it, right? Because they're busy
yeah,
and life is busy. But all of a sudden, the member weekend, they can't play that second day or that third day, or the golf trip starts to become painful and they couldn't really finish last year, or they didn't have fun last year and they know it's coming up and they still have the same pain. Well, let golf be the catalyst, the reason why you go in and get that figured out, right? So that you can go and do these things that you actually enjoy. So yeah, for some folks, it's like you don't need a golf specific plan. All you need to do is just commit to exercise and maybe get some guidance.
yeah.
And then for others, like let golf be the catalyst. Let's do something that's a little bit more specific if it works well for you, if that's your main priority and goal. And so it can be helpful in
Right.
two ways. But again, the most important thing is what are you going to be consistent doing, and that'll be what is helpful for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think more so on my end, it was more about, hey, like, what are some good habits, right?
Yeah,
So in the time of, putting the drink down, it's like, okay, how do I shape my life in a more healthy fashion? So you take the time out of like going out, meeting people, and obviously in a social environment, there's drinks involved. So when you step away from that, what are you going to replace it with? So I just
yeah,
started replacing it with habits, right, and good habits. And ultimately, during that time and then on forward, um, I've kind of created just really a consistency of how I live every day. And I'm already into golf, right? I have been for like a long time, really most of my life. I mean, I started playing golf when I was 5, so it's
right.
already ingrained in my life. So I can't honestly say that, getting in, that was the purpose. I think it was just more about, overall, making my life, um, I guess, more healthy again.
Yep.
And just, yeah, I just honestly felt like it was something that I needed to do, right? Just to get the focus back into what I'm doing, what I'm trying to
Yep.
accomplish, how much do I want to grow in life, how, like, what is success? I think we
Right.
always, like, in the back of our head, we're trying to figure out like what that is. And so developing small habits, gives you that sense of success in that moment, and kind of builds into those bigger moments as time goes on. I obviously know that, I'm not like top instructor. I know my place in the world, but it's still, you have a goal, and how are you going to get there? So it's like taking these like baby steps to reach your ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. And there's some
Yeah,
easy to stay consistent when you look at it that way. So I definitely appreciate that.
yeah,
What
yeah, for sure.
you had mentioned that you're feeling a little bit more you've noticed some changes in your swing. Have you taken your process here of what's happened and turned yourself into a bit of a case study? Like, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite kind of case study of a student you've been working with over the last year? Are you your own favorite kind of case study of the changes that becoming a bit
Um,
healthier can make and things like that?
yeah, that's a good question. I would say there's probably two. Um, Myself, because I've had been noticing. So I played in a couple tournaments this year. I played very well. Somehow the lights went off here, but um, so I was kind of chasing at some way perfection in the golf swing, and trying to like get in the perfect positions and this and that. And I noticed that my body was not allowing it to. And so what I reverted back to was just simple basics of what worked for me, for my body, and how it
Mhm.
can naturally move. And in that time, I've been looking at it and I look at the video and I say, like, why am I hitting it that good with this type of motion? I mean, my setup. I mean, I've got an interesting type of routine. Any golfer that's played around me, they know it. And I have more of an open setup at address. My left foot is flared open, just, not 45, but just halfway in there. But that to me helps me really get my left side just swinging open, where I could clear myself to really get the club down the line. And it works for me. It's not something that I teach, obviously, everybody, because they don't
Sure.
move like me. And but I at least want to know why I have to do that. And so that's been a pretty good case study. The second case study would be one of my students that I've had for about 3 years. Shout out to Nick. He is a sophomore this year. He's going to be a sophomore this year. And it's been a journey with this kid. He's got the grit. Like, he wants to play. He loves the game. When I started coaching him, he was shooting 120. Okay. So when he was, I can't think back like too far, but at that time when we started working together, I mean, his average score was 120, right? So just a month ago, he shot even.
Wow.
That's a huge
Heck yeah.
step up right there. And what's crazy is, during this entire process, the very first year, what we did was hammered the fundamentals. I mean, just nonstop. And also worked on his playing. And then The little after, it's been so long, it's hard to figure out what year it was, but he got injured. He had like a elbow spur or something like that that he had to get taken care of. So that was, 4 months
Yep.
that he was out. You
Yep.
know, he came back. We started practicing, working on the same fundamentals and working on his playing for another, 5 months. He got injured again.
Mm.
Okay, so during this, long story short, during this period, like he had two minor setbacks of injuries. We kept on hammering on the fundamentals each time he got back, because that's kind of the place where he was at.
Yeah.
And this year, we finally stepped into more detailed categories of the golf swing. Like even like how he shifts his weight,
Yeah.
pivoting, um, how like he's pitching the club towards the ball on the way down. I mean, some kind of detailed stuff where it's a little hard to grasp at times. And then we worked on connectivity. And even though that we worked on instruction, the biggest thing that I feel that benefited him was the confidence boost. The amount of time that he was away from the game, and he played his first year in golf tournaments on the Sneds tour, he noticed that he was very behind. And
Yeah.
so as a golf coach, it made me, as far as care, as far as, caring as a coach, you have to kind of plant that seed of motivation and give this guy, like this kid, some life in between his ears, and really make him work towards what his goal is, right? I mean, he wants to be better than like a lot of these players. Like, he wants to be the best he can be, but all these, like, a lot of kids just
Yeah.
expect it to happen, and when they get out there, they kind of get rocked by the fact that there's other kids that are better than them. So I really like encouraged and pushed like positivity and motivation towards this child, and I'm sorry, he's a teenager, and just worked on his confidence mostly. And he's got this swagger now about him. He's he can be a little cocky at times, but that's
Sure.
cool. He's kind of at that age where he should be. But it's really fun to see the progression in the past 3 years from, shooting above average of 120 to, 72 a month ago. I'm super proud of him.
It's wonderful. Yeah. It's impressive stuff. I would like a transformation like that. But so you had mentioned he'd kind of gotten injured twice, and things were kind of stalling out. And then you have to come back and build his confidence back into it. What does that process look like when he's coming back from injury? So who gives you the all clear to start working again? Is it a judgment call on him and his father? Do you play a role in that? What did that process kind of look like coming back from his injuries?
Well, his mom did ask me those questions, and again, I'm not the doctor, so I always revert back to, hey, what did the doctor say? You know, and let's keep it at that. I'm not going to make that decision. I'm not going to put myself in the position of, prolonging this injury. I'm not going to do that. So, I really made just a judgment call on what the doctor said, and then I kind of put a boundary on it. I said, yeah, you're not swinging until the doctor says you're clear.
Yep, smart. It's
Even though that he was like chomping at the bit, I was like, dude, you can't,
I'm sure.
right?
Yeah. In From my perspective, it's very hard for me to pull back. I'm maybe the last person to hold back from going out and playing more, right? So I'm very cautious about shutting things down with players, especially young players that are competing. Um, but it is important to know like where that line is. So it differs between each person and really each type of injury. Some are more higher stakes where you really got to play that line well, and understand it. But like I have an article on reconciling pain and performance. So how can you continue to get better even though we have pain? And again, that depends on the injury, what that process looks like. But it sounds like this was kind of well managed, and hopefully you get to see from that perspective, whether you're working with juniors, middle-aged folks, or seniors who've just had a hip replacement or something. Hopefully you are working with providers that are giving kind of clear instruction, even when it's the senior golfer and there's really no stakes, for in terms of longevity or performance, right? We're not trying to get to college at that point or anything like that. It's more of a hobby. But hopefully you're able to work with that provider and they can work with you, and the PT or whoever you might be working with that can be very clear with the student and with you, and where that they are in that process and what it should look like and how much practice and the quickest way that we can kind of rebuild. And that's something that is a fun part for me, that I get to be a part of that team and that performance part where we get to say, hey, I'm pushing to get back to big swings this week, 5 big swings with the driver, right? Trying to be as precise as possible, because that, especially the students, the younger students, it really helps because they'll try to push it no matter what. And so you have to be very precise with them, but also with the older golfers where you get to say, hey, you get to go do this week. And you should feel comfortable doing this. Sometimes it's on the opposite end where people they're more hesitant to go out there and start playing again. And you have to push and say, hey, you're ready. Look at the stuff that we're doing in here. This is all designed to make sure these joints are prepared and ready for this. Go do it with a golf club in your hand. Right. And so again, hopefully anytime that you're running through that, especially with the younger golfers, that there is some connection there and should be as clear as possible for you. So now and into the future, hopefully you're able to get some of that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think, at that time I wasn't really involved in like his decision making. I mean, obviously he's got a mom, and the doctor kind of explains what the next steps are and stuff. And they do, like, obviously physical therapy on those injuries and stuff. I think now, knowing, going through that, I I I guess I know better of like who how I can direct him,
Yeah.
to see about his physical therapy, and just so it's more like maybe like a line of communication between
That's right.
the therapist and myself. I didn't know that at that time. That was
Of
the
course.
first time I've ever gone through that. But that's, obviously we're evolving. It's a learning experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very good. Seems like he's in a really good spot now. I wonder if I know the student. Is there any new trends that you're noticing from the last time that we talked? Anything that you're, maybe even particularly that you're trying to kind of, what conversation are you trying to have with all your golfers over the last couple of months? Is there one thing that keeps popping up that you're just so excited to kind of share and teach and be a part of?
Um, there's definitely a trend that I feel like, just from the student, that possibly they're going to just be able to like fix themselves in one lesson.
Mm,
Sometimes that's not the case, you
yeah.
know. They may have a lot of mobility issues, and you have to really explain what's going on. I tell you a little bit about, years ago, I could even say like a decade ago, being a teacher. Obviously, like if you're a player, you could swing and you have the feel, and you could kind of direct or say, hey, like this is where you should be positioned at this part of the swing. But if their body can't do that, you can't just tell the student, hey, it looks like this, right? Like, here's your finish. It looks like this. I mean, if their body can't move in that way, I mean, they'll never get there,
That's right. I'm
right?
very familiar with that. Yep.
Yeah. So again, like, key word here, evolving, is just kind of really seeing where the student is at, see how the club is moving. Why is the club moving that way? What is the body doing preventing the club moving a certain way, you know? Um, I don't think a lot of players, especially amateurs, have a sense of feel,
Mm.
right? And breaking it down this year to just simplicity, like just thinking about simplicity, right? I've really tried to structure my teachings on three components. And to me, that would be your hands, your center line of your body, like your torso,
Mm.
and the center mass of the golf club. Connection is moving all three of those parts together in a synchronized fashion,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
how do we do that? What's the body doing? What makes one of those get off sync? You've got to figure that out, right? In the past, like I didn't think that way, but this year I've really have thought and really took a deep dive in and why the club is moving in a certain way, and I
Yeah.
see that the body is making it move in that particular direction,
Yeah.
so when I break it down into those three categories, it's really easier for me to kind of pick out what we want to work on or what I need to kind of implement, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been so blessed, like to work under Jude, and he has a system of operation which I try to follow. But uh, as an instructor, it's my responsibility to kind of make it my own, and
Hmm.
I feel like those three components have really helped me, and that's what I try to stick to with every student, of just like explaining one of those three are off. Why is it off? So that's kind of where the conversation starts in the lesson, and then we move it on from there.
Gotcha. What's something that's very common that you're seeing? What is the number one thing that tends to be off, if there is anything?
Well, I mean, a lot of people swing over the top. That's a pretty easy fix these days. Um, Recently, I have found, and I'm trying to figure out like how the pelvis moves, right? So we kind of know that the torso doesn't really, like, if you had no limbs and no pelvis, like the torso doesn't move, right? You'd actually have to like kind of roll somebody to actually move them. So the pelvis moves the entire torso, and so really trying to, like, I'm obviously not explaining that to students, but it's just like good for my thought of just to kind of take a deep dive of why can't their torso move, right? I've had a couple of students where they just can't finish, and they end up like slapping their wrist or doing the little chicken wing, and that's because like their pelvis is not rotating properly, so the torso can move as well,
Yep.
and
Nice.
that connection is gone if they can't do that,
Yeah. Well said.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been seeing, is just like more midsection functioning, right?
Now, will you take that even one step further into the ground and the pressure through the feet and where the where you're pressing and pushing to manipulate the pelvis, to manipulate the torso?
I mean, yes, but I can't see it. I don't use technology. Like, I don't have
Mhm.
TrackMan. I don't, like, this is all based off of like
What you're
on the
seeing.
range and eyesight and video.
Yep.
So I can't see all this type of pressure. I'm familiar with like pressure plates and stuff like that, but I've never used them. I don't use them in my instruction. I just don't have it available,
Yeah.
right? So I have to kind of work around that. I have to inspire new drills to possibly help that type of mobility.
Yep.
Whether it's like a simple step drill, right? Um, I have to think outside the box. I'm limited on technology. That's kind of where I'm
Yep.
at right now.
And some of that's just part of being an athlete is if you bring it into the pelvis and you try to get them to move the pelvis one way, is that naturally they should start to figure out how to move that pelvis that way, which will turn into just very specific reaction forces happening at the foot, but they don't have to think about the foot necessarily. So yeah, even you just putting obstacles in their way and different things like that to get the pelvis to move, it's really the brain and the body figuring out, okay, where does the pressure go to make that move? Where does the center of mass need to be to get the torque to make it to move like that? So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you're
it's
seeing it,
hard, man. It's
and
it's
those,
definitely hard. Like when it comes to pivot and pressure, that category is very hard for your amateur golfer because I don't have to personally think about it. I played
right,
sports all my life growing up. So I have this, like, the motor skill programs are already there. I don't I don't have to think about what my legs are doing. They just do it, right?
right.
And a lot of the players, a lot of the students that I teach, they're just not, they haven't played a lot of sports, or they may have like a desk job that they're sitting down, and so their legs aren't very mobile. So
Mm-hmm.
it's entirely different, right? And so I what I give them is like some exercises with resistance bands, and really just try to work that out the best way we can. Again, I don't have like unlimited availability for technology. But I do what I can, to help them feel what their legs should be doing.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite parts is towards the end of a treatment plan, whether we're working on or through or from pain somewhere or plus pain plus restriction where they know, hey, I just can't move this well. Or my favorite, a pro says, I'm not moving well. He thinks it's a mobility thing. Can we work on that? So my favorite thing is towards the end is when we are start to put force through the ground and moving more quickly, right? And being a little bit more dynamic and
Yeah,
explosive with it is getting them to use all the space and feel and make sure that things are kind of syncing up and synchronizing a little bit so they can be more athletic in their lessons. And you can kind of ask them to do something and they have an understanding, a basic kind of understanding of how they can manipulate their body to actually move like that.
yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
very
now you
rewarding.
mentioned you mentioned pain. I honestly, at the forefront, I put posture as like a top fundamental that I teach. So this past like couple years, man, I have not like heard anything about back pain, right? Because I really focus on posture at the
Mhm.
forefront, and so back pain's not an issue.
Yeah. And you, what is something that you want to see in the posture specifically?
It's hard. It's honestly hard to explain, like as far as angles, but I try to explain to them to feel like their center of mass, like their upper body is resting on top of their feet, you know? So you're not going to get too much forward bend. You're not going to have like an arch back with your butt past your feet, your back past your heels. I feel like if your spine is angled too low, it's really going to limit your mobility on your takeaway and follow through.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make your body like really jump out of posture, right?
Right.
Um, so I really try to get their center of mass resting more on top of the feet. Again, it's hard to explain the angles that I'm wanting. I'm not really chasing perfection there. I'm just
Right.
chasing more comfort and mobility.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is there, so you haven't been running into as much low back pain. Is there
Yeah.
any cases or you had already kind of mentioned this a little bit where specifically where a major restriction, you kind of mentioned some of your golfers not able to follow through and get to that finish position. And I was going to ask, how does that manifest in the swing specifically? And you had mentioned already kind of chicken winging and slapping at the ball. towards the
Yeah.
end. Is there anything that you've noticed from a golfer in the past dealing with pain and what was happening in the swing? Maybe not as a cause of the pain, but as a result of the pain. Any sort of swing characteristics specifically that you saw show up because there was this kind of chronic, long-standing pain or anything like that?
Mm, I mean, as far as like if the pelvis is not rotating properly, depending on how they bring their arms towards their ball, if their arm, if they're like, let's say if their left arm is more pronated, then that's just going to jam, right? Their elbow's just going to jam all day. So I've had uh, I would say in the last 2 years, I've had two people kind of complain about, you know, like an elbow injury or pain or
Yeah.
something like that, and they came to me and they don't understand how to get rid of that, and so we've number one, most of the time that's due from a really really strong grip, right? And so if they're just swinging and they're just jamming that elbow, like that's obviously not good. That's what the pain's coming from. You obviously, my first take would be, all right, let's just weaken the grip a little bit, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So you're noticing um, grip or position, then pain, right? So like probably causes position creating more impact, more jolt. Now we got golfer's elbow. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few things I wanted to ask you. I got an interesting kind of question that's a little bit more specific to the Grove. Um, if you were to design a golfer to maximize their success at the Grove, but you had to give them a few weaknesses too, what does it take to be a fantastic performer at the Grove and win some club championships? And where are you allowed to be weak at something? What is something that you cannot be great at but still perform well?
Dude, that's a hard question. That's a pretty in-depth question right there. At the Grove, ooh, you have to have confidence.
Interesting.
You have to have confidence.
Is there some holes where you really gotta kind of go for it? Is there some questions of should I lay up or go for it?
I mean, honestly, there's as far as confidence, I'm saying like you have to be able to will the ball. Like you have to visualize what you want to do and go do it. You cannot think about, there's water over here on the right, like you can't think about what's on the course. You have to think about what's your objective and get it done.
Yeah,
That's the type of confidence that I'm talking about.
gotcha. Where can they be not so good?
Ooh,
Is there plenty of
all right.
space to spray it off the tee or no?
Not really. Not really. Here's my thought. I think if you're great off the tee, you have a much better advantage of finishing the hole because you leave the penalties out of play. Like your first drive off the tee, I mean, you have a chance of going out of bounds or in some type of hazard. So if you can have a good tee ball, mentally it sets you up for a better shot into the green. And mentally
Yeah,
you're in a better state, right? And I guess that can kind of go along with confidence as well, because if you just hit one out of bounds and you've got two pops, you're like, you're already kind of frustrated. So the hole could kind of go downhill from there. So,
yeah.
you know, I'm
Okay.
you'll have to kind of elaborate more on that on the second part of that question because that was pretty deep.
Okay. Well, let me let me say what were your best round down there at the Grove? What were you doing really well?
Ooh,
Everything. It's a high level course. You can't be bad at anything. It's what it sounded like.
Well, I will tell you this, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Grove. It has, like, I played a tournament at the golf club of Tennessee, and that was like a few weeks ago. And I don't play much. I don't play many tournaments, but it's just not my priority right now. But what helped me the most was, again, confidence, in a sense of I have done the work to perform what I'm trying to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I spent plenty of hours at home putting. So if I had a birdie putt, I made I made a pretty good roll at it. I made a lot of
Yeah.
birdies that day, and so I made like a very good chance to make that putt based off of like my mind not getting in the way. Right, I had
Yeah.
the confidence of staying with my routine and trying to fulfill my objective. Right, so I'm not thinking about missing it. I'm thinking about making it. That's what made me play well that day was I
Yeah.
literally set over the ball and my only thought was something positive. And
I can understand that.
how do you train that? How do you train that? How do you teach somebody that at my like where I'm at? I don't know. I mean you could preach that and stuff, but I think that takes time over the years. Um, but how I got to that point, maybe being comfortable, was actually putting in the work. And we talked about habits, right, early on. When you make these like little wins in your mind, it's like you could do this. You don't have any doubt because you know that you've already done it, right? So in your head, you're like, I can make this, you
Yeah.
know. And that's
Hmm.
that's my perspective. When I was out there, it was just more like, hey, you've been here, like, just get it done, get it, like, do it.
Very good. Yeah. So confidence keeps coming up, keeps coming back, and a
Yeah,
tough thing to kind of teach, like you had mentioned, but that's maybe the route to it. It's just the more you practice, the more you can kind of feel good that you've done what it takes to do what you're trying to do.
yeah.
Well said. Um, Last thing I want to ask you and get into, what is something that you're really excited about for the rest of the year? Is there, you said you're not playing too many tournaments. Is there a particular tournament, um, a few students of yours that are participating in some that you're really excited about? What is something that you're just really jacked for 2026?
Man, I honestly, I had like a really good year last year. Again, I do what I love to do. Like, this is like the job that I do as a golf instructor. I do love it. I'm excited just for more growth, right?
Yeah.
Like, professionally, financially, like, you name it, like whatever growth is, I mean, I'll take it, you know.
Mhm.
Um, if I have the time to play and perform, like, that's great, but that's definitely not my priority because I spent majority of my adolescence playing golf, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not chasing to be on the PGA tour. That's not my goal. So, I mean, it's like playing is fun. Playing is great for me, and to know that I could still do it is awesome. It's a great feeling, but it's still not like my entire like it's not my number one priority.
Yeah.
My number one priority is to become a better teacher and a better coach.
Very good. Well, I'm excited for that too. It'll be a good
Yeah,
year, another good year for you. All right. Well, thank you, Tyler. Thanks for coming on the podcast. This is another good one.
absolutely.
Again, I think we can probably plan for a third. We got plenty of things to continue to get into, and I
Dude, that
still like.
last dude, that last question was wild. That was a good one.
Okay, sorry to surprise you with that one, but maybe a couple keep them in reserve. Um, Thanks, man. We'll do this again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on. Thanks,
Of
Nick.
course.